security situation in the country. In the light of the recent twists in comments we've heard from the authorities, the arrest made by them, you saw some of the headlines about the kinds of scenario playing itself out. Well, Mr. Chairman Naji joins us now. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, and please accept my heartfelt condolence in respect of the untimely and needless death of your very vibrant colleague, Eneche Agbonko.
Thank you.
May his soul rest in peace.
Amen. But looking at some of the unfolding scenario now, from what you perhaps have seen and read, do you have fresh perspective in terms of raising your expectations that at the end of the day, who knows, we may be on the right course after all?
Well, there is the saying that when the drum begins to sound too loud, it is very likely it is about to burst. The recrudescence of attacks by the sect in various locations appears to give credence to that aphorism. I strongly believe that the days of Boko Haram may be, the end of the days may be in sight, by God's grace. And it appears they are trying to exhaust all the arsenals they have in their armory. Having said that, the security agencies should not just go and relax. The most painful thing to me is not so much about the fact that the sect is coordinated or organized or intelligent in their thinking or what have you. It is the laxity and the state of complacence in which they meet their victims and targets, whether the security outfits or installations. For example, if you take a walk into even a police station, somebody once told me that the best place to go for robbery was a police barracks, even a military barracks. And I said, we told you, they say, because everybody already thought that nothing can happen. So if you get there, you are most likely to succeed. If you take a walk even to the police force headquarters before the Boko Haram attack, you would not find it too difficult to get to so many places you wanted to. There was always a presumption that everybody who will visit will behave, until recently. And that is why I should advise that while God is working in tandem with Nigeria's effort to confront with these challenges, we should look on the other side or the fallout of this development, which is the time for appointments in this country based on primordial sentiments of religion and ethnicity or chronism should be over. Because, like I have always said, there is a global demand for good governance. If you don't deliver it, the system will throw you up, either for disgrace or serious reprimand. The point we are making here is we should look at the fallout. Like Dr. Newton Bremer said, I am not interested in falling, but in failing to rise again. In every situation, you should try to see why or what can I gain to make better adjustment, not bemoaning your fate. Why did it happen to me? Because those who it happened to are not the worst creatures under the sun. And when good things also happen to this country, we did not take it to Cameroon. We appropriated them.
Before we start looking at how we really can rise again from all of this, maybe possibly we can also look at some of these new, because on a daily basis we're getting to hear different stories new dimension to all of this. Now police uncovered loads and loads, over 300 explosives stashed in canned drinks, and first one of the kingpins who escaped or disappeared, vanished, or was released. The investigation is still on, and just yesterday we were told that 158 members of the sect have been arrested. All of this happened just after the president visited Kano. Is it that, people needed to wait for some kind of disaster to occur, as you actually said about being complacent in our fight against terror, before we can actually sweep on these people if we truly know where they are?
Suleiman, you see, like I have said, and I've said it time without number, for the risk of sounding repetitive, I want to restate that before now, this country have made appointments most appointments on basis of primordial sentiments. And I have stated in another forum that even a goat from experience in this country could govern Nigeria. All you needed was to put the goat down there. Everybody minded his own business. You wake up in the morning, you don't even remember the name of your own governor, because he has no business with your existence, except you are a civil servant. So, the man did what he wanted and got away with it. But because there is now, the world is becoming has become a global village indeed. There is a global demand for good governance, and people are no longer complacent waiting for pittances, while some people wallow in the squalor of affluence. I mean, in affluence. The point we are making is that those people in authorities must become more accountable. And to be more accountable means that if you are appointed to position that you think you cannot perform, it is duty on you to tell that, you are duty bound to tell that appointing officer, sorry, I am not fitted for this job. Okay? Because this is not a learning ground. You don't appoint people to start learning on the job when there are hordes of people who have experience and training, the right attitude and the aptitude to discharge the responsibilities of that office. So the issue now is that because of the collective shame and embarrassment of what is happening, those people who probably may have initiated this project, if I should call it so, are beginning to see that it appears it might be escaping from their own control. So you begin to see a lot of clamor. Some people don't say we condemn Boko Haram. Some of them say we condemn the killings. Please dialogue with them. If you do a content analysis of reactions, you will understand what I'm saying. Now, there is a story of this tortoise. The in-law stole the tortoise property. The tortoise tied the in-law on a rope in a market route. Everybody said, tortoise in-law was a very bad in-law. You stole these goods. Till evening when the market had closed and people were coming back, they still saw this tortoise in-law tied to the stake. They say, tortoise, you must be a very wicked in-law. How can you leave your in-law on the stake? It's the same mouth that condemned the in-law that is now chastising tortoise. So what we are saying is that those people who perhaps eulogized the activities of the sect are being compelled now by circumstance. And I can tell you also, like I believe very strongly, everything that had a beginning, somehow, it's a simple fact of life, somehow, somewhere, someday will end.
But that end, perhaps the beginning of the end, can it also be interpreted as when communities, we had always talked about this gap between those on top there and their communities, even though they talk about going back to their constituencies, perhaps just textbook talk. But now, are we going to see communities, or are we already beginning to see them react to those who are quote unquote supposed to represent them, in the sense that if you say you represent the people, or if you say you sponsor or you support or they know you stand for something which ordinarily should not be, have we come to that stage wherein if you go back to your community, it becomes hotter than you ever think it will be?
I made an allusion to that, but let me be a little bit more explicit. Yes, we are getting to that, because we said if you do a content analysis, it will disclose some level of embarrassment by certain people who had earlier on eulogized perhaps the activities of this sect. Okay? It's a starting point. That shows there is some kind of pressure on them. Now, unfortunately, some of these things may have acquired a life of their own, even though the finances might still be available, because the street worker or what they may call the infantry in the army, I believe, is not the man who provides a 406, brand new 406 Peugeot car wired with bomb, with intent that when it explodes, you will completely lose that car. It wasn't a poor man also who got a Toyota Hilux, brand new Toyota Hilux vehicles and so on and so forth. That is not the kind of money also and it's not the kind of vehicle you deploy money you suffered for. It must have been people who had access to cheap sources of fund. It could be public or donations, by whatever means. But it's not something you dip hand into, something you did calculations, income, cost, and what have you. And then you begin to spend that kind of money. They were using second-hand vehicles. Now they are now using brand new vehicles, for security reasons. So it is duty-bound. The security agency is supposed to do a diligent investigation of those vehicles that did not explode. Because the intention was that once the thing exploded, the chassis number, the everything will go. Okay? But now those things are available. Now, more than that, we should be more scientific in our approaches, because all these reactive tendencies will lead us nowhere. We have people who are versed in the sociology of crime. Crime has a sociological basis.
And they're here with us.
They're here with us. The unfortunate thing, like I said, people in government should begin to look, the appointing officers should begin to look for those who have the credentials. Not only qualifications, that's why I use the word credential, which will now include the qualification in terms of training, qualification in terms of attitude.
Because, sorry to butt in here, this is very important, because the news making the rounds, I don't know if you've heard that, a police officer who is also been fingered in the escape of the Boko Haram leader was once dismissed and reinstated in the police force and without any proper documentation. So now when we talk about appointing officer or officers and those who are being given such appointments, now we thought once upon a time that there used to be some kind of checks on some people, credibility as well as their background. All of a sudden, when it comes to security operations, we realize that it's totally absent.
When appointments are driven by such primordial instincts and considerations, okay, those variables, you don't do a thorough job. Do you know that certain positions of very high level responsibility, you get it on telephone because of who you are or the relationship you have? Then every other thing can be done the other way, just the way that some students will do in an exam hall. They know the answer of this thing. They now say x, y divided by the multiply and cancel everything again. But at the end of the day, it will be equal to the real answer. They just needed to put the answer down. So they know what they want to achieve. And, at a particular point in time, people in government, it may not necessarily be this government. People in government the world over know the type of people they want and for what purpose, and at a particular material time. They can hibernate you for 2 years. When it is appropriate for you to perform, you perform and you are discharged. So we see these things. I don't have the facts about this gentleman that we were talking about. It could also be possible that It is the same culture of negligence that have pervaded in our public service that caught up with him this time around. It is also possible, because it is inconceivable that if we see the way EFCC just one man, maybe they have about 36 more polls in 6 jeeps, and there will be too much of a bravado, and there is absolutely no threat in that area that perhaps the man will either escape, and the man is so very well known such that even if he decides to run, where does he run to? Now, somebody is said to be an enemy of the state. This is not local government, this is not state government, this is state, Nigeria as a state. Treason. And if you go with 36 more polls without having a battalion at the other end, I would even still blame you. So the question of escaping is preposterous. It's preposterous.
You know, there's this newspaper headline now that says government forecloses dialogue with Boko Haram. That's what we say on the front page of The Guardian this morning. Do you think that government should start, or do you think that that's a good idea? Let me put it that way.
I saw the Chief of Army Staff on television yesterday. I don't even think the question of restressing whether there should be dialogue is necessary. Although it was broached by certain people from certain areas where perhaps this thing started, because of probably the misunderstanding between the Boko Haram sects and the Niger Delta issue. Even the Niger Delta issue, even if they had the same kind of starting, because perhaps some politicians may have recruited certain people at a stage, the thing now acquired a life of its own. When you group a lot of people, you arm them, and then they finish with you, they may start doing private practice, as you you may want to call it. If it started that way, it could be different. But these other guys were smart to have now linked it to resource control, and so found their people able to key into it, because that was their own expectations. Now, the North is not monolithic, as to say once you say the North, then you go to sleep. The North comprises those who are Muslims and those who are Christians, and a few of them who are neither Christians nor Muslims, even if they do small jactitation. Okay? Now, for you to now say that you want to do this on behalf of the North, it doesn't work. And that is why you see a lot of people saying this is not a northern matter. They are from the North, and we know more. This is not 67 or 62 or whatever, where people might say there's one North and all that. We now know the sociology of the North. So we know that when somebody comes to say he's speaking for the North and is talking negatively, that cannot represent the views in the North. There might be some cliques, just like you have in different locations, who want to control power. Okay? Now, in controlling power, you deploy all arsenals, including the primordial sentiments of religion, ethnicity, to get your foot soldiers. But have you bettered their life? So the point we are making, or I am making here in response to your question, is that there is absolutely no room for dialogue, because nobody can articulate what they want. They have not said what they want, except that they want to Islamize the North or even Nigeria.
In other words,
a possible project. It is an impossible project, even at the pain of death. People will stick strongly to their views, especially in these days. Don't forget that this is no longer at the age of quiescence. We have younger, agitating people in all areas of this country.
But you've had people, bring up with this constitutional conference all over again and saying that, it's time that people meet, different ethnic groups meet and decide how they want to form this federation.
We need to really sit down to talk about this country. So many people have made this point, and like Karl Marx said, that every system contains its own seed of self-destruction. What we have now is that there is going to be an implosion of the kind of relationship we have in this country. It cannot continue this way. We must sit down. when the mother goat is gnawing, the baby goat, if you want me to, for want of a better name for it, is watching. So some people have vaunted that we are in charge of this, we want to do this, and the younger ones are watching. So if the older ones have now seen differently, the younger ones have not been tutored to have a change of attitude. And so they begin to deceive themselves on certain things that might not work. So there is need to sit down, all the ethnic nationalities, work out the modality. I'm not saying that they necessarily have to challenge the authority of the government in place, but once it is done, a plebiscite could be carried out, and then a new constitution comes in. Otherwise, the signal of every now and then people agitate, they say go and negotiate, will mean that you can no longer get anything in Nigeria unless you agitate. And violence is not the exclusive preserve of anybody. The easiest thing under the sun is to destroy. That's why we go to school. Education defines the limit of your conduct, imposes discipline on you to know your boundaries. That is what education does for you. But if you don't allow that education to take place in you to impose that discipline, the next thing is the state of atavism, which everybody will be subject to self-destruction and the Hobbesian environment.
Yeah, but in closing now, would you say we're doing the right thing as a nation in approaching this challenge with a view to tackling it?
I said we need to be scientific. We must use our scientists, this haphazard approach to national issues.
So it takes away all of those beating about the bush.
You don't need to say the society should cooperate. Then you mobilize all churches and mosques. They will be praying. Where can a nation so iniquitous, so neck deep in sins of multifarious and multidimensional levels, be involved in prayer and God will hear them? You need to first of all exorcise yourself of those iniquities before you come before the temple of God. That is why we cannot get results by praying. We must do the right things in this country. And it must start from the government must show leadership. The best opportunity to do that now is Jonathan. Because many of us believe that Jonathan has the right attitude. But he needs to himself also use the executive powers before him to create the right environment so that these two will come together to achieve results. Because the truth remains that if we miss the opportunity in this time, it's going to be very difficult. For the simple reason that the combination of those who have gone to school cannot afford to disappoint that community. Otherwise, the claim that we have never had graduates in the Aso Rock and this and that will not help us. We need to get things done right now.